Hey guys, John Paulamy here, Actionable Intelligence. Today is Saturday, July 11th, 2020, and this is the weekly market update. So, I'm going to be shortening these videos and trying to make more of them. Some of the videos have been going 30 minutes, and I can just see from the analytics most people aren't getting through the entire video. So, I'm going to try to break it up and make them more subject matter um, specific so that you can get this information in bite-size attention span type segments. I mean, if we go any longer than 12 to 15 minutes, that's usually when people say that's enough and they click off. So, wanted to talk about today Stephanie Kelton's book, The Deficit Myth. This is the book that I said I was reading. I read it. I will say this. Stephanie Kelton is the professor. She's a professor at Stony Brook University. She's an advocate for modern monetary theory. I'm not going to get on here and trash modern monetary theory. I'm not going to get into that argument. I fully expect that the United States and the other indebted Western democracies are going to move into modern monetary theory. What I want to do is talk a little bit about it and explain why it's not going to work and why it's going to lead to, I think, an outcome that we are going to be able to take advantage of. What is going to happen is basically you're just going to print money, okay? And she's very persuasive in her book. She's a very good writer. She doesn't write this book in like a textbook or like an economics textbook. She uses vignettes from her life. She's talking about how she came around to thinking this way. It goes chapter by chapter. She explains, and some of the things I don't necessarily disagree with. For example, she says that a country like the United States that has prints its own currency and its debt is denominated in its currency doesn't. It can run deficits as large as it wants because it can just print the money and pay the debt off. That's entirely true. That's a true statement, technically. In reality, that can be done up to a point. If you're a country like Bolivia and you have borrowed money in dollars, you can't print Bolivian pesos or whatever they use there and pay off the debt in dollars because people won't accept them. And so she ties in truths. The devil's in the details, right? The devil always tells you a certain amount of truths before he lays the big lie on you. And the big lie here is the same lie that we've seen throughout economics throughout time. I can get something for nothing. The perpetual motion machine, the ability to not have to produce but still have wealth, have things, have sustenance. And what shocked me about this is the arrogance and the narcissism that these people have. Oh my goodness, 2020? This is a revelation. No one has ever thought of this before. No one's ever thought about doing this before. That's what strikes me about this. Well, all we have to do, because we're the U.S. and we have our debt denominated in dollars, we can just print as much money as we want. Now, another truth she tells is that if you print too much money, you'll get inflation. But she's got an answer for that too. So basically, if you don't know anything about economics or you're not schooled up in Austrian economics or even Keynesian economics, you are going to find yourself thinking this is a really good idea. And I even was starting to get a little bit. She's a really good writer. I'll tell her that. She's a good teacher. I don't agree with her, but I can see how they picked the right person for this job, and that if you get a certain administration, there are certain people of political persuasion, of progressive people. They're going to trot her out as the academic, and they'll trot other ones out too, and say, "Look, the academics say this is a good idea." Who are you, John, to criticize her? You don't have a PhD in economics. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't have a PhD in animal excrement, but I know the difference between bullshit and horse shit. I'll tell you that. So basically, one of her arguments is that, and she used this vignette when she was on the Senate. She used to work for Bernie Sanders. She's part of the Senate Budget Committee. She was an economist there. And she was talking about one of the Republican senators that used to be a shoe salesman or own a shoe business. And she was just shocked that, how the average person looks at the government's budget like they do a household budget. In your household, you can't spend more than you take in. Well, you can for some period of time, but eventually, if you spend too much above your income level, the interest on the debt that you accumulate will overwhelm you and you'll go bankrupt. The same is true with the business. Professor Kelton's argument is that a country, especially a country like the U.S. or the European Union bloc of countries or Japan, one of these countries whose debt is denominated in their own currency, this cannot happen to them. And if you look at it that way, if you're trying to look at the government's budgeting and its ability to carry deficits as you do a household or a business, you are looking at it the wrong way. And this is kind of the key where the juxtaposition or where she gets people. Oh, yes, that's actually true to a certain extent. But there's a reason why the United States and these other countries in the European Union have the privilege that they do, because they have been shown restraint for many, many years, in some cases decades and hundreds of years, in not abusing the privilege of printing their own currency. There's a reason why nobody wants to hold bolivars in Venezuela, is because or in Zimbabwe dollars. Okay, they can use them as confetti, can use them to start a fire. People have lost confidence. It's a confidence game, fiat currency. Okay, so that's one of the things that I don't hear her mention. She does touch on it a little bit, but there's ways that this won't get out of control in her mind. Now, she does say that it's without a doubt, she says it several times, if a country prints too much money, they will have a inflation problem. But the way that you can control the inflation, if it does start to get out of hand, is that you can raise taxes. You see, this goes back to that video that I talked about, or what the conceit of the socialists and communists was. If you watch that one movie about the Soviet Union, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head now. It's about the engineers and Gosplan, the engineers running the country, and Gosplan, which was a central state plan. Basically, they made the 5-year plan. So you had these PhDs sitting in offices determining how many freaking toothbrushes should be made, or how many pairs of size 8 leather shoes should be made, that kind of crap. And here is a simple thing that all these academics fall into. They don't trust the free market. They don't trust your individual. I mean, you get up in the morning, and from the time you get up to the time you lay down at night, you're making hundreds, if not thousands, of economic decisions. And everybody doing that in unison is what's sending signals to the market. The demand for services and goods that you want is dictated by the market, by demand, and by what consumers want. So the conceit is that we don't need to have balanced budgets. We don't have to restrain ourselves. We don't have to live within our means. We can spend. We can print the money because our debts are denominated in U.S. dollars, of which we can print as many as we want, as long as we don't let inflation get out. And all we have to do is inflation gets out, we just raise taxes, see? And then we can take that money out of the system. Because the only reason we created dollars to begin with is so that you can pay your taxes. I mean, this is exactly I can't explain this all in a 15-minute video, but you have to read the book. And I encourage you to read it, because this is where we're going. Without a doubt, I can get out here and preach about it. I can do video after video. I can deep dive Mises, human action. I can refute. I can print up all these papers. I'm not going to do it, because this is where we're going. People want this. We've had 20, 30, 40 years of robber barons, Wall Street, politicians, and Sharpies stealing from the people. Now the people want theirs. And like I said, my biggest video that I've ever made was Meet Your New Federal Reserve Chairman, Donald Trump. He's the first MMT president. I've said that. Look what's going on. We're giving money to people, trillions and trillions of dollars. Where are they getting the money? They're just printing it. It shocked me when I read this, because it's like I'm not some great thinker or philosopher, but I've read a lot of great thinkers. I like reading the Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, it's Solomon's wisdom, Marcus Aurelius. I mean, I've never heard, we have history is our record that other people have tried this. It's not going to work. It's going to end in ruin. It'll make everybody poor. You can't get something for nothing. So, like I said in the last comment here, no one ever thought of this before? I mean, seriously? Come on, lady. Of course, when you get into the second half of the book, then you'll see, I think, what the real agenda is, well, at least for her side. Now, she does say that regardless of what political party is in power, you can, anybody, you could do this for whatever. If you wanted to have more aircraft carriers or whatever. Of course, she also makes the point that no one ever says anything about the deficit when we're doing military spending and corporate subsidies, which I agree with her on that. I mean, I'm not saying that I just disagree with these people. I mean, I'm a classical liberal. I'm a libertarian by my thinking, at least around economics. And I believe in a free market. And I believe the government should have restraint on its spending, and that it's stealing resources from the private sector when it's getting these resources. So, basically she says that, we have to get rid of this antiquated way of thinking. It's holding us back from doing the things that we can do to making more and better bestest society, justice society. I mean, we've heard all this shit before, this progressive bullshit. It's a progressive wet dream, right? I mean, now if we free ourselves of thinking of the deficit or the government running its finances like a household or a business, then we can open up all kinds of new possibilities. Like we can have a government guaranteed job program with a guaranteed minimum wage. No one has to be unemployed, because if there's enough slack in the economy, that will be, I guess, determined by some bureau or bureaucrats in a bureau, the optimum level of employment before that causes inflation. Then we can have, ostensibly everybody can have a job. I don't know how productive the jobs will be, because if they can't get a job in the private sector, that means they have no skills, or there's no demand for their skills. Well, we're going to create a job with a guaranteed minimum wage, if they want one. We can have health care for all now. But if everybody has health care tomorrow to the max that they want it, there's not enough supply to supply that. You see where this is going? But I guess that you can train, the government can, mandate that the people that are in the government jobs program go become x-ray technicians. I don't know. The Green New Deal, of course, because it's just a progressive wet dream. It's able to finance all this now. This is the way they're going to finance it, because we just have to throw off the shackles of our lack of creative thinking. And I guess, we were not doing this before, presumably, the way I understood it, the way she explains it, because we were shackled to an old way of looking at government budgets. We just could not get away from looking at the government, that the government should run a balanced budget and should have finances, because taxes aren't really what you think. They don't use taxes to pay for anything. Those are, they create taxes so that they can have money in the system. It's like this chicken and egg argument, which I thought was really weird. But the bottom line is that when the government creates money out of nothing, and that's what we have when we're printing money, it's a fiat system. It's not based on anything. It's just somebody pushing a key on a computer or cranking out paper units out of a printing press. And then the government takes that money and goes out and buys real resources, cans of soup, tanks, healthcare services. It's exchanging nothing, digital ones and zeros, for actually something that has value. In effect, it's diverting resources to itself without paying for them. It's stealing resources. Now, of course, people would say, well, John, the government's not taking the resources to have its own health care. It's going to deliver health care. It's going to be a good thing. Well, you could make these arguments if you like, but the bottom line is they have to be paid for with real wealth. And if you're just printing money and you tell everybody tomorrow that they have gold-plated health insurance, or they have health insurance, or they can get whatever they need done, there's not enough resources to supply it all. Prices will go up. See, now we're getting into the meat of this. But what's even worse than inflation in my mind is the amount of malinvestment that will be created. MMT is going to be ripe. And this is going to be a wet dream for speculators. Because why? I like the Doug Casey definition of a speculator. It's always stuck with me. It's somebody that takes advantage of government or businesses that make poor decisions, okay? And the malinvestments, okay? You could have become very wealthy on the subsidies that are given, or the government. If the government decides that through MMT, so let's say we get a progressive government. I'll just give you an example of what I'm talking about. We're going to get a progressive House, Senate goes back to Democrats, and you get Joe Biden, and he has some left-wing person in there as his vice president, and he's not going to last long because he's, well, demented. He's got dementia. So then you have this full-blown progressive agenda, and we're going to have the Green New Deal. We're going to spend trillions and trillions of dollars, and you can just see where this is going. Where are the resources going to come from to build all these things and do all this? It doesn't exist. So be able to take advantage. And I'd suggest already, with the Federal Reserve having created $7 trillion, or with their balance sheet up to $7 trillion, and not only them, but all the other central banks. I pointed this out last week. I showed you it's going a rocket ship straight up, central bank money creation. What are we starting to see? We're starting to see prices rise. But this malinvestment, when politicians are going to decide where all this new money goes to into these new great programs, seriously, ask yourself, unless you're really a hardcore progressive or left-winger or somebody that just worships government, they're not good at really, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or this Crenshaw with the patch on his eye, these people are going to figure out we're going to put all these new trillions of dollars? They can't. They're just people. There's normal people. They can't do it. Gosplan in the Soviet Union couldn't do it. And so stuff's going to go to what's most politically expedient for that politician to retain power. And that's more than likely not going to be the best use of those resources. You saw it during the Obama administration. Remember shovel-ready jobs? Remember Solyndra? This company doesn't exist anymore. All these things that they shoved money into that don't exist. Look at Tesla. Things never made any money. It's selling less cars than it sold before. It's the stock price is going nuts. It's malinvestment. The shale plays that we were talking about, it's malinvestment. It was allowed to happen because of artificially low interest rates, and there was so much money being pumped out that malinvestment took place. Now imagine this on a gargantuan scale. And so all these inefficiencies, all these things are going to happen. It's going to be a speculator's wet dream because we'll be able to take it the other side of these bad ideas. And it's already happening. MMT is already a reality. The problem really is with the society and with the people. The dumbed down population, lack of ethics, morals, people trying to live off their neighbor via the ballot box or get something for nothing. Everybody wants to spend money, so we're gonna do it. And Kelton, in her work with this book, and some of these other people that are pushing this agenda, they have this economic wrapper they can put around the old John law, just print money. So it's easy to swallow, right? Bend over, grab your ankles. Stephanie Kelton's going to give you the chorizo, and you're going to like it. Because, see, the professors say it'll work. Who are you to question it? You don't have a PhD in economics. So she's a good writer, and her style and the way she explains it, it'll convince many ignorant people. Because, like I said, she mixes in a lot of truths. It is true. Like I said, the devil gets you by telling you half-truths. It's true. You can print as much money as you want. The U.S. can do that until the holders of the dollars lose confidence. If people start saying, these people are just going to go nuts and spend a bunch of money and turn this place into Zimbabwe, I'm going to get rid of these dollars. They're going to become hot potatoes. So there's a fine line. And then this idea that you can just, again, we're back to this old idea. I can put Stephanie Kelton and her ilk at Stony Brook University, who evidently have never worked in the private sector, never done anything real. They're going to pull the levers and push the buttons and know how to raise taxes just to the right rate to, as we get into an inflation. Or they know just enough how much slack is in the economy and how much money we can print, the exact amount, so we don't go past the point of absorbing all that slack in the economy and then create an inflationary fire. Really, does anybody think that this is a good idea? But it's going to happen. And it's going to look like it works at first. Look at what's happening right now. We're already in an MMT environment. We're already doing this. We're printing money. The Treasury's issuing debt. The Federal Reserve's buying it. And the government's handing it out to people. And they're spending it. And the stock market's making all-time highs. And so if you get that money first, you think it's a good idea. You think it's working. Hey, John, you old fuddy-duddy. See, you were wrong. The stock market's going up. Unemployment's going down. People, if you look at the statistics, personal income is making new records. That's because the government's shoving all this money in people's pockets. I got my check. Of course, I'm going to take it. It got converted into hard assets as quickly as I got it, but, you know, I got it. And so it's going to look like it's going to work. The economy will expand, unemployment will go down, people will be convinced it is working. It's the same thing that happened in Venezuela. And then all of a sudden, bang, prices start rising, and then it's game over. And then you can't shut it off, because if you do, then you have a deflationary depression. Because all that malinvestment's built up, you can't turn it off. We talked about that last week. What's the indication? Let's look at some charts real quick. Prices are already moving up. Here's copper. I mean, look, guys, this is March. You know, you had the big crash because of the coronavirus world shutdown. They've been printing money since, and this thing's been on a rocket ship ride. It's back to where it was before the crash. It closed at 290 on Friday. Before this thing fell off a cliff before the coronavirus, it was at 288. We're back to the old highs in 3 or 4 months. Now, how did that happen? Demand came back so quick? Well, it's a combination of supply contracted and demand came back, but there's also a bunch of money being printed. Let's look at gold. Gold's making new recent highs. Not all-time highs. It's going to make all-time highs this year. But, you know, this thing's cracking 1,800. She was flirting with 1,820 this week. Here's the GSCI commodity index. This is all your commodities. These are bottomed back here after the crash. All the money's been hidden, and look what's happening. This thing's up 50%. This is like all the commodities together. So this is what's going to happen, and this is going to be the decade of inflation. This is going to be the new paradigm. Whether I like it, it doesn't matter if I like it. It doesn't matter if I agree with it. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you accept that this is what's going to happen, and then you take advantage of it. Again, you have to open your mind up. It's not going to work, but we can become extremely wealthy. Your job is to make money and take care of your family and realize your dreams. And if they want to drive off a cliff, you just say, hey, stop the car and let me out. I think I'll take out some insurance while you guys drive it off the cliff. And that's what I'm trying to get across here. We're not going to stop it. You're not going to vote it out. Both parties want this, believe me. It's going to happen. Like I said, Donald Trump's the first MMT president, but you haven't seen anything yet. So that's it on this video. I jumped around a lot. Please buy the book. Please read it. A lot of people are going to look at it from their own political biases. I'm not going to read that. She's a communist. Or somebody's going to jump on here and criticize me. Well, you're misinterpreting what she's saying. And hey, read it yourself and make your own determination. But understand that money printing is here to stay, not just in the U.S., but everywhere else, because we have too much debt, and this is going to be the cycle where the hoi polloi gets theirs. Wall Street got theirs. The Sharpies got theirs. They're going to get theirs too on this one, but now people want to get paid. They want their student debt dealt with. They want health care. They want free shit. They're going to get it. All right, that's it. Appreciate it. I'll have some more videos. I'll probably put another video up tomorrow because I got a lot of charts to go over. Stay tuned. I will probably put another video out in the next day or two. I'm going to try to put more videos out, shorter, more concise, more to the point on single subjects. All right, guys, appreciate it. Hit that subscribe, hit that like button, and hey, take a subscription to the Actionable Intelligence newsletter. I had a copper stock that I thought I was getting ready to sell, and that thing's doubled in the last month. That's how fast things can turn around. All right, talk to you later.